I'm Tim Barkley with Charleston Home and Design Magazine, and we are talking with Dean Neistat. How you doing, Dean?
I'm doing just fine. How you doing?
Doing great, thank you. Dean, thank you so much for inviting us into your home today and taking time for our interview. Let's start with your last name. The Neistat brothers want to make sure everyone knows how to pronounce Neistat. They spell it out phonetically on their website, and they point it out in their movies as Neistat. Give me some examples of how people have butchered your last name in the past.
You know, you'd think it'd be kind of a simple thing to pronounce. If you look at the name Seinfeld, S-E-I, Sein, nobody ever says Seinfeld or Senfeld, but people commonly say Neistat, Nestat, Nestat. They spell it N-I-C-E-S-T-A-D-T if they're trying to spell it, but no, it's definitely Neistat.
It sounds like it became a pet peeve at some point with you and your brothers.
It does get frustrating after a while.
Let's just start, if you don't mind, just with a brief description, if you would, just kind of describe the Neistat Brothers series on HBO.
The series is difficult to describe. My brothers, I think, do it best by using the phrase, it's a handmade, homemade TV show. So it's a show chronicling their lives, basically. They have adventures and projects and stories that they want to tell, and they tell those stories through movies, through short films, longer films, and sometimes very short films.
And it seems like the arts community really picked up on the Neistat brothers originally. They
did. Their big breakouts were internet videos, viral videos, things like that, where they made small films for different artists or different companies, and those videos, the styling of those videos really was a breakthrough for them.
Speaking of Neistat, do you have any Neistats?
You know, I don't. Not a single tattoo.
Not even an Air Force tattoo or anything?
Nowhere on the body.
Okay. Tell me what it was like growing up in the Neistat family. You've got your oldest brother, Van, your older sister, Jordan, next oldest brother, Casey, Casey's son, Owen, your mother, Amy, your father, Barry Neistat, and you are the youngest.
Correct, I am the youngest. It was an interesting dynamic. We had a pretty prototypical childhood up till maybe until I was about 10 or 12. And then my eldest brother, Van, moved off to college. And then a few years later, my sister moved off to college. Casey moved out of the house. My parents got divorced. And then it was no longer the prototypical family.
Are you close with your siblings?
Very much so.
At what age did you first realize your life was being chronicled on video?
You know, it's an interesting question. It's like, when does the computer realize it's self-aware? It was never a conscious thing for us, since from the time we were born till today, everything's on video. There's always a camera out. It's like I just pulled out my camera out of the pocket. There's always a camera available. So it's more natural than anything.
Gotcha. So you grew up with cameras in your face then?
I mean, not in the sense where it was obnoxious, but to the sense where it was important for my parents and my mother and my siblings to have everything documented.
What in the Neistat Brothers series, you see that wall of tapes that they've collected over the years. There must be hundreds and hundreds of hours of video.
For sure.
Did you ever have any desire to pursue a career in filmmaking?
You know, it never really occurred to me. I was in the high school newspaper. I was a photographer for my college newspaper at the University of South Carolina. And I always enjoyed photography. The video aspect of it never really caught on with me.
So you went to University of South Carolina?
I did.
How did because you folks are from New York and Connecticut, that area. How did you happen to choose University of South Carolina?
You know, it was interesting. I went my freshman year at the University, or Kutztown University of Pennsylvania, a very tiny school in Pennsylvania. It was the only place I got in. And at the end of that year, I planned to do 2 years at Kutztown. I realized I was ready to, or I had grown out of Kutztown, so I was ready for a move. And there was a very limited number of schools that accepted late transfer applications, and the University of South Carolina was one of them.
Very good. What do you think of the Gamecocks this year?
I like them.
They've had a pretty good year with their football. What is it about motorcycles in the Neistat brothers?
That's an interesting question. We all have motorcycles. We all ride motorcycles. I know I bought my first motorcycle back in, I think, 2004 or 2005. I think it's just the ease of commuting, the ease of transportation that a motorcycle provides.
And certainly a lot easier to ride down here than it is in New York this time of year.
Yeah, that's for sure. A little chilly up north.
Do your brothers still get around in the off months on their bike?
They do. Van actually moved out to Los Angeles, so it's nice weather out there. Casey, I don't think he rides in the winter. He rides his bicycle everywhere, but not so much the motorcycle.
Gotcha. What kind of motorcycle do you have?
I have a Kawasaki KLR Dual Sport. It's kind of a big dirt bike.
Yeah. And you're a big bicyclist as well.
I am. I really enjoy cycling.
What trips have you taken on your motorcycle?
I've done a lot of day trips, a lot of short trips, a couple overnights. I think the longest motorcycle trip I've ever done was with my brother Van. We rode from, before my last deployment, 2 deployments ago, we left New York and rode all the way down to South Carolina via the coast. It was a great trip.
Was that the one that was documented in one of the episodes?
Yeah, a lot of that was shown in the episode.
Is there a need for speed for the Neistat brothers?
You know, well, you could think that, but then if you look at all of our bikes, you know, I've got a Dual Sport. Van's got the BMW Adventure bike 650, and Casey also has an Adventure Enduro type bike. None of which are really that fast, so I don't think it's a need for speed as much as a need for convenience.
Gotcha. Do you ever compare yourself to Tom Cruise in Top Gun, whose character was also a pilot like you and also drove a motorcycle?
You know, you're not the first person to ask me that, but I don't think that I have.
Probably a good answer. In one episode, we were just talking about you and your brother Van drove down to Charleston on your bikes. What do your brothers think of Charleston?
Oh, everybody loves Charleston. Every time anybody comes to Charleston, they fall in love. It's tough not to like this city.
Yeah, Charleston was quite prominently featured in that episode.
For sure. I mean, it's a very picturesque city, easy to photograph.
Yeah, and what kind of struck me was I think one of the scenes was of Colonial Lake at night, and I saw the outside of this building, and I said, I think I recognize this building, and that's what kind of made me think we've definitely got to reach out to you to see if we could do a story. In that same episode, you helped your brother find a motorized surfboard for a race against artist Tom Sachs. Have you ever rode that motorized surfboard?
You know, I have. The Surfjet was all the rage back in the early 90s up in inland Maine. Our grandparents had a lake house and they rented Surfjets, so they were very popular.
Your brothers are obviously very creative, but they also seem very smart and very mechanically inclined. Tell me about that.
Well, growing up, we had to. I don't mean fend for ourselves, but we were very much into fixing our own things. If we broke something, we would fix it. You know, if it was time to change the oil in the car, we'd change the oil. If it was change the brake pads, we'd change the brake pads. If you break a camera, you fix the camera. You don't just go out and buy a new one. We didn't really grow up in a disposable family, so we learned that from a very young age that you do it yourself.
Was that passed down? Do you think you inherited any of those talents?
I don't think we did.
Did it all on your own. What kind of a background do you have that prepared you to be a pilot in the United States Air Force?
Absolutely none.
What was your major at USC?
Economics.
Economics. What made you decide to become a pilot?
I'd always, well, not always, since I was about 17, I always kind of thought about the military, never too seriously. When I moved to South Carolina, I just saw the Air Force Commandant walking down the street one day and sparked up a conversation, and 3 years later I'm off to flight school.
Did you choose to fly C-17s, or was that a plane you were assigned to?
I chose it. when I graduated college, there was an interim period between graduation and going to flight school, and I spent that time here at Charleston. So from the day I left Charleston to go to flight school, my #1 goal was to come back to Charleston and fly the C-17.
That's great. Do you have a desire to fly any other plane?
Pilots always like to reach out, fly other planes. Other planes are great. The C-17 is definitely the greatest airplane in the world, so I'd be perfectly happy flying that the rest of my life.
What makes it so great? Why do you love flying C-17s?
It's both the airplane and the mission. The airplane is 500,000 pounds, and it handles like a fighter jet. You can fly it like a fighter jet, and there's really no other heavy jet that can fly like that. And then you add in the mission of the worldwide, airlift, where you're going to different continents, different countries, on different days of the week, and it just makes for a great package.
Do you plan to stay in the Air Force?
That's the $1,000,000 question, now, isn't it?
Are you up for renewal or?
The standard commitment for a pilot is 10 years from graduation of flight school, so that pushes me to 2016, and in 2016 I'll reevaluate.
Gotcha. If you did get out, would you pursue a career as a pilot?
I really don't know. That's a long way off.
What's it like flying in a war zone?
To be honest, it's a lot like flying anywhere else. Flying an airplane is flying a transport airplane is a challenge in itself, but you have to take that challenge and keep it level. If you treat a war zone any differently than Charleston or Germany or Peru, then you can get yourself into trouble.
Any close calls?
I've had a few close calls. It's not uncommon to be shot at, to have small arms fire come out the jet.
It must be scary when that happens.
You kind of ignore the fear for the time being, and then settle that up with your body and your mind later. The task at hand is to fly the airplane safely and get the mission accomplished. So you kind of, whatever fears you have, you put on hold until you're in a different place.
Describe how you feel as you fly over Charleston Harbor and follow the Ashley River the Ashley River to land at the Charleston Air Force Base.
That's just fantastic. I've probably done it 60 or 70 times in the last 3.5 years, but every time it's a hoot. I mean, you come right down the Ashley, you go over the bridge at about 1,500 feet, and then you turn, and the landing path is right here, right over my apartment, and then you go in and land. It's awesome.
Yeah, the C-17s fly right over our house, and I don't know. It's one of those. It's almost a sense of pride I have when I see him come over, and it just makes me feel proud that the Air Force has such a presence here in Charleston. Music is such an important part of the movies that your brothers Dean and Casey make. The music really enhances their movies. Can you tell me anything about that?
My brothers Van and Casey, you misspoke. That's fine.
Van and Casey, I apologize.
I'm my own person. Yeah, music is huge. My mother's big into music, always has been. My father loves music as well. His musical repertoire is a bit smaller than my mother's, but it's always been a big player in our lives. So when it came time for my brothers to make movies, having the appropriate soundtrack, if you will, was a big player.
What has it been like for you with your brothers having a series on HBO?
It hasn't been too big a player. The series premiered, and I think the reason it hasn't been is because when the series premiered, I, as well as my entire squadron, was deployed to the Middle East. So I think the first episode was June 4th. We deployed later in that month, and then we were gone for the entire series. So by the time I get back, the original airing was already over. So kind of my whole peer group missed the airing of the show.
You couldn't catch it overseas?
No, there's no HBO available overseas.
Gotcha.
Where we were, at least.
What do your Air Force buddies say?
They're into it. Some guys for some guys it's tough to get over the novelty that they know somebody on TV. Again, I was only in a couple episodes, so I'm no superstar, but I think they enjoy it.
Your brothers seem to reveal intimate details of their lives. Does that bother you, or has it affected you in any way?
No, not in the least. I think that's one of the most important aspects of the show is honesty and truthfulness. So I have no issue with that. I always try to live an honest and truthful life and not hide anything or hide my past.
What are some of your favorite Neistat Brothers movies or videos?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think my favorite sequence in the whole series was Van's Amsterdam sequence. I think it's episode 3 or episode 2. It's just a wonderful sequence. And then, they've done so much. It goes back 10 years. They've done a lot of great stuff.
Are you talking about the Amsterdam episode, trying to with the pancake syrup?
Yeah, with the maple syrup. Not the entire episode. The sequence where Van has, or I should better say Van's writer's block episode. So it's about a 2-minute bit where Van has to overcome his writer's block, and I think that's my favorite piece of the whole series.
There was an episode chronicling the experiences of your siblings as they graduated from high school and went on to college. The point seems to be that money was more plentiful earlier on, and by the time you graduated, you didn't have as many options to pursue college as your siblings. What's your take?
If that was the impression of that episode, that's not entirely true, or really not at all true. All 3 of us, Casey didn't go to college, but Van did, Jordan did, and I did. My parents helped us, but not a great deal. Jordan took out loans, Van took out loans, I took out loans. I joined the Air Force, all so that we could more or less put ourselves through college.
Your parents must be very proud.
Yeah, they're very proud. They enjoy the show immensely.
What's it like for you to live in Charleston?
I mean, it's great. What's not to like about Charleston? It's great weather, great people, amazing city.
Where do you like to go out to dinner here in Charleston, or drinking with friends, or anything like that?
It's tricky. I keep kosher, so there aren't really any kosher restaurants downtown. I'm much more of a day person, so I like all the parks. I like going for runs and rides with friends. There's a couple coffee shops downtown we frequent, and then a couple other bars at night, but nothing too heavy.
Besides motorcycles, what other hobbies or passions do you have?
Like we talked about, I do ride my bicycles quite a bit. In the spring and summer months, I do quite a few triathlons. That's a big hobby of mine, and that's really all I have time for. I play tennis on occasion. I played quite a bit when I was younger, but with the Air Force gone as much as I am, it's tricky to have too many hobbies.
What's your fastest time for a triathlon?
That's a difficult question. You have 5 or 6 different distances of triathlon, so I had a pretty successful year last season. Or a successful season last year, but nailing it down to a time is kind of tricky.
Do your brothers visit you very often?
No. Van has come down. I mean, I think Jordan has come down 3 times. Van and Casey have come down twice, maybe 3 times each.
You chose to buy your residence here in Charleston versus renting or living on the base. Why?
That's actually pretty simple. I did, when I first moved into this apartment, I rented it, and I loved it so much that I didn't want to move. I knew I wanted to live here the entire time I lived in Charleston. So when my landlord said, hey, we're going to sell the place, and if we sell it, the new owner will have the option to move in, I said, I don't want to move, so I'll just buy it.
What do you like most about your home and living in Charleston in general?
I mean, location's fantastic. Living downtown is like nothing else. I live right on the lake. The park is right there. I'm 10 minutes from King Street, and easy access into and out of the city. I love the building because it's not old, but it's pretty old. It's near 100 years old. Art Deco, great layouts, great structure, brick and plaster everywhere. It's a good place to be.
Good deal. Well, Dean, thank you so much for taking the time today and allowing us into your home, and we look forward to the next season of the Neistat Brothers.
Don't we all? Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dean.